Hey, it's Marcel. I am geeked up about my new book that just got released worldwide. If you haven't heard, it's called Humane Leadership. Lead with radical love, be a kick ass boss. Now, if you love the podcast, you're going to love the book. I spent several years researching the best skills and behaviors of people leaders that engage employees and drive results through a humane approach of empowering humanity, developing trust, and getting the best out of people. It's out now. Get it wherever books are sold. Humane Leadership. Lead with radical love, be a kick ass boss. Check the link in the show notes and grab your copy. Welcome to the Love in Action Podcast. I'm your host, executive coach, speaker, and author, Marcel Schwantes. I believe that when we show up with our full humanity to work and lead from a place of love, joy, purpose, care, and inclusion, it's going to make a radical difference in your leadership, your business, and your bottom line. This is a show about actionable, practical love, the verb, as a leadership and business strategy. Let's get rolling. Hey, gang, it's just you and me today. Glad to have you on. I get a lot of questions now that the book is being launched and I have a full PR campaign. I'm getting a lot of questions about the sort of the religious background to how I came up with my principles of love and action. So here's the gist. When I came out of this period of working for a very toxic management structure at the hospital that I was in for 2 years, and if you read the book or if you've listened to this podcast over the years, you've probably heard this story many times, right? I was in an environment where the management structure was so top down and so command and control and so stifling and high pressure. In other words, it was so dehumanizing that the stress took such a toll on me that my back went out and I was paralyzed for a couple of months. Not only did I have to recover physically from being paralyzed from the waist down, there's also a mental and emotional toll that also comes with that. So there was that recovery. And this type of thing goes on everywhere, even in today's day and age of DEI and belonging. This stuff happens. There is this understanding now that we are elevating the wrong people to leadership roles at the highest level that don't have the competencies to lead other human beings through love and care. Okay, so that's the whole premise of the book. So what's the religious slant on this? Okay, first of all, it's not a Christian book. It's not a faith-based book. It's a business book. But when I came out of that environment, I started to figure out that the best way to lead was through people that love people. So what that means is that if you're going to be in an environment where you have high performance, people are flourishing on the job, there's high engagement, often the case is that those at the top are the ones that care enough for people's well-being, for people's mental health state, for their commitment to the job, et cetera. And they create the conditions necessary for the employee experience to be really high and joyful and full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. When you come to those workplaces that are set up that way, everything points back to leadership as the catalyst for creating those conditions. And so when you have that experience as an employee, guess what? Engagement is going to be high. And if engagement is high, and here's the process, if engagement is high, you're going to have high performance. And that's very good for business. So everything goes back to leading with love and care. And when I started to investigate, I took a different route to my research. We already know that there's enough research out there on leadership and positive psychology and organizational behavior that points to strong cultures being affected by really good leaders. So I know that to be the case because I'm all over the research and in the literature and the case studies. But I wanted to find out religious worldviews, and if you trace communities of practice in most religious faiths, whether it's whatever your religious faith is, if you come from a Christian background, a Jewish background, if you come from a Buddhist background, those communities of practice have learned that there are certain principles that they have applied throughout the ages where people learn to be in community and to care for one another. And so when I started to poke around in the religious world of what makes those communities tick and what makes those religious communities sustainable for over thousands of years, I found in the ancient texts, I went through Bible and basically boiled it down to patience, kindness, humility, advocacy, and trust or trustworthiness. So that was hundreds of hours of me pouring through ancient text. So that's great that I found that to be true for religious communities. Does that hold up in the 21st century in a leadership context in the business world? Hello, of course it does, right? There are countless studies on all of those tenets. So when you apply it in leadership, then it becomes like this. Leadership is patient, leadership is kind, leadership is humble, leadership advocates for people, and leadership is trustworthy. And that is aligned with science and the research and the best practices of leadership. So my call to action is, if you are curious about that, that's the first step, is get curious. Find out if your employees are not motivated, if you are seeing retention go down, if you see engagement is suffering and people are quitting or quiet quitting, you need to get curious. If you're a leader or manager, you need to get curious to find out what is going on, because most likely everything points back to how our leaders are leading. And if they are not taking care of their people, there's going to be more suffering down in the lower ranks and on the front lines. So we need to address that through what I call the 5 radical principles of love in action, which is the framework for my book. So what shift must happen in your organization for you to create more actionable, practical love and care in your current situation, so that you can maximize human potential and get people to show up with their best selves? Because that is going to be very good for your business. That's all I got today, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Love in Action podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it, subscribe, and leave us a review. Until next time, don't forget, the future of leadership is love in action. Believe it, practice it, and watch your leadership and business flourish.